Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. Today, we're going to really get into something that feels a little bit like a political thriller.
Oh, yeah.
And it all revolves around this British MP Tulip Siddiq. She's making some serious waves, but not all for the right reasons.
Yeah.
There's this whole cloud of suspicion around her finances and her connections with her aunt, who just so happens to be Bangladesh's Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina.
You know what really grabs you right off the bat is that Siddiq's family were refugees when they came to Britain. They had practically nothing,
Right.
And now she's, doing quite well. So that's where the mystery starts.
Yeah. And you've got Siddiq aiming for a top spot in UK politics.
Yeah.
But then all these whispers about her wealth start popping up. Multiple fancy properties in London, a big campaign fund.
Right.
It all just seems a bit mismatched with her family's background, doesn't it?
It's like a puzzle with some pieces missing. How did she get all this wealth?
Yeah.
And did her family connections have anything to do with it?
And that's where Sheikh Hasina comes into the picture. Siddiq's aunt and the longtime Prime Minister of Bangladesh.
Right.
This family tie adds a whole other layer to the story, don't you think?
Absolutely. You can't just ignore what's been going on in Bangladesh under Hasina's rule.
Right.
Her regime has been accused of some pretty serious stuff. Enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, silencing opposition, and corruption everywhere you look.
To make things even juicier, we've got excerpts from a recent interview Siddiq gave. It got pretty heated.
Great.
The journalist really grilled her about where her money came from.
Yeah, the journalist straight up brought up accusations against Hasina. Put Siddiq on the spot.
Right.
Wanted to know if her wealth could be traced back to a system full of corruption and human rights abuses.
Yeah.
It was a direct challenge.
Instead of addressing the questions head on, Siddiq was super evasive. Gave vague answers about her family's hard work, even accused the journalist of playing politics.
Right.
It all ended with her storming out of the interview.
It's interesting how she tried to play both sides. On one hand, she's trying to separate herself from Bangladeshi politics, saying her focus is all on the UK. But then she praises Hasina as a strong and effective leader.
Right.
Talks about the economic growth Bangladesh has seen under her rule.
It's definitely a calculated response.
Yeah.
So what do you make of Siddiq's evasiveness and how she handled that interview? Does it make you more suspicious? Or is she just trying to protect her family? It's something to think about.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It is.
If she condemns her aunt, she risks alienating someone powerful.
Right.
Someone who might have helped her get where she is, but by keeping quiet, she's feeding those suspicions.
Right.
People are going to accuse her of being complicit, or at least benefiting from a system that many see as corrupt and oppressive.
We can't lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
This isn't just about one politician's questionable finances. It raises concerns about foreign influence in British politics.
Absolutely. If Siddiq gets into a powerful position in the UK, how will these family ties and potential obligations to her aunt affect her decisions? Could it create a conflict of interest, especially when it comes to anything related to Bangladesh? Or even broader international relations?
These are questions voters and policymakers need to really think about.
Yeah, they do.
It's a real tangled web. And her refusal to address these concerns directly just makes it more intriguing. What's she trying so hard to hide?
Transparency is so important in a democracy.
Absolutely.
And Siddiq's lack of openness on this is troubling. It erodes public trust, casts a shadow over her political ambitions.
Yeah.
Voters deserve to know if their elected officials are working for them, or if they might be beholden to foreign powers.
It all boils down to that, doesn't it? And those allegations of human rights abuses under Hasina's regime make it even more urgent.
Yeah.
We're talking about enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings.
Right.
If there's even a chance that Siddiq's rise is connected to a regime like that, it needs to be investigated thoroughly.
Absolutely. It's not about jumping to conclusions or going on a witch hunt.
No.
It's about due diligence, making sure that those seeking power are held to the highest ethical standards.
Right.
And that their loyalty is to the people they represent.
Absolutely.
Not to foreign leaders who might be compromised.
This deep dive has definitely left us with more questions than answers. But one thing's for sure, Tulip Siddiq's story is far from over. This controversy around her wealth and family connections is going to keep swirling as she chases her political goals.
And it's a story that has bigger implications. It makes you think about the balance between personal ties and public responsibilities, the challenges of transparency in a globalized world, and what we expect from our leaders in terms of accountability and integrity.
That's a lot to think about.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into this messy world of politics and international relations. We'll be back soon with another fascinating look behind the headlines.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it?
It is.
If she condemns her aunt, she risks alienating someone really powerful. Someone who might have helped her get where she is. But by keeping quiet, she's just feeding those suspicions. You know what I mean?
Right on.
People are going to accuse her of being complicit, or at least benefiting from a system that a lot of people see as corrupt and oppressive.
Yeah. And we can't forget about the bigger picture here. This isn't just about one politician's finances. It raises concerns about foreign influence in British politics.
Absolutely. If Siddiq ends up in a powerful position in the UK, how will these family ties and potential obligations to her aunt affect the decisions she makes?
Right.
Could it create a conflict of interest? Especially when it comes to anything related to Bangladesh or even, broader international relations.
These are things voters and policymakers really need to be thinking about.
Yeah, they do.
This is a tangled web for sure. And her refusal to just address these concerns directly makes it even more intriguing. What is she trying so hard to hide?
Transparency is so important in a democracy.
Absolutely.
And her lack of openness on this issue is troubling. It really erodes public trust, casts a shadow over her political ambitions. Voters deserve to know if the people they elect are really working for them,
Right.
or if they're beholden to some foreign power.
It all comes down to that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And these allegations of human rights abuses under Hasina's regime make it even more urgent.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings.
It's serious stuff.
If there's even a possibility that Siddiq's rise to power is connected to a regime like that, it needs to be thoroughly investigated.
Absolutely. It's not about jumping to conclusions.
Right.
It's not about witch hunts or anything like that. It's about due diligence.
Right.
It's about making sure that people who are seeking power are held to the highest ethical standards, and that their loyalty lies with the people they represent.
Absolutely.
Not with some foreign leader who might be compromised.
This deep dive has definitely given us more questions than answers.
Yeah.
But one thing's clear. Tulip Siddiq's story is far from over. This controversy around her wealth and her family connections, it's going to keep swirling around her as she pursues her political goals.
And, it's a story with broader implications. It makes you think about that balance between personal ties and public responsibilities.
Right.
The challenges of transparency in this globalized world we live in.
Yeah.
And what we as citizens should expect from our leaders when it comes to accountability and integrity.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the complicated world of politics and international relations. We'll be back soon with another fascinating look behind the headlines.
Looking forward to it.
So we've been digging into this whole Tulip Siddiq situation. And the more we dig, the more interesting it gets.
Yeah.
Every layer we peel back, there's another twist, another question.
Right.
Another reason to really stop and think about what this all means.
It's really striking how this connects to those broader anxieties we have about transparency and accountability in politics. In this globalized world we live in, the potential for foreign influence. It's a big concern.
It is.
And Siddiq's case really brings those complexities to light.
It forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about potential weaknesses in democracies. Can people with deep personal connections to controversial figures abroad really represent their constituents fairly?
Right.
Can they resist those family loyalties?
Especially.
And those loyalties might go against the interests of their own country.
Those are really tough questions.
They are.
But we need to be asking them.
We do.
And, with Siddiq's evasive answers and her unwillingness to address these issues head on, it's clear that the public needs more transparency, more accountability.
Absolutely.
They need to know that their elected officials are truly acting in their best interests.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. It goes beyond Tulip Siddiq and gets to the core of how democracies work in a globalized world. How do we balance individual rights like the right to family ties and associations with the need to protect against foreign influence in our political systems?
It's a delicate balance for sure. It requires careful consideration, open dialogue,
Absolutely.
And a commitment to those principles of transparency and accountability. That's the foundation of any real democracy.
It's a conversation we all need to be a part of. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into this complex world of politics and international relations. We'll see you next time for another fascinating look behind the headline.